What it do, what it do. We back again with another one on your head top. We're gonna be reacting to Patrick CC, how entitled named actor destroyed a Disney classic. Talking about Snow White. That girl fucked that whole movie. It was probably like a year ago when she came out talking about all of Patrick scenes could get cut and Disney Princess and the weird. Oh my god. Oh my! I remember I was watching. I was like, what's wrong with her? Like, why would you say that about the movie before it comes out? Do you want the movie to fail? It's like these. Oh my god, these women don't use their frontal lobe. Why would you say? Do you want the movie to fail? If that's what you want, then I can understand why you would say certain things, because you don't give a fuck. You want the movie to fail. You don't give a fuck. But if that's not what you want, then why would you say that? Let's get into it now.
Disney was warned for years that their live-action remake of Snow White would be an abysmal failure. They ignored the warnings and instead made every wrong decision possible, leading
before
to
we get into it, just want to say this though. I know people dislike her and all the stuff she said and this, that, and the third, and she this and she that. But we're not gonna act like the girl is ugly now. That's one thing. It's like, all right, whatever. She's this, she's that. We know Gal Gadot look better than her in terms of. Everybody got their taste, but she is attractive. You know what I'm saying? People trying to act like, oh, did she just like she's ugly? She's not ugly. You know what I'm saying?
a box office bomb.
She's
Theaters
weird
around
as
the
fuck.
world are empty. The film sold 50% less than they projected. It earned a 1.6 out of 10 star rating on IMDb, a 20% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The CGI dwarves will give you nightmares, and the little people.
And I had looked it up too, because I like to see, because I keep up with stuff like this where people wouldn't think I do, but I like movies and stuff and the critics and the shit they doing, because I'm a big movie fan. Like, I'm into movies and I'm like, that's my thing. So I keep up with stuff like this. I knew this movie was gonna fail when I seen that. And then I seen all the controversy with the dwarfs and Peter Dinklage when he was talking about, he's trying to act like he want to be the only dwarf getting money. He want to be the only dwarf that's getting these roles. Anybody else getting roles, he's trying to make it seem like it's an abomination that they would use dwarfs and like, what are we, cavemen? It's like, motherfucker, you want to be the only dwarf getting money?
With CGI have filed a class action lawsuit against Disney. Walt Disney himself is turning in his grave because he personally requested that the company should never change, alter, or remake Snow White, but they did it anyway by casting Rachel Zegler, who insisted that they change the entire film to make it more politically correct. Rachel called the original Prince Charming a stalker, insisted that Snow White was not yearning for love, but actually dreamed of being a leader. Rachel also demanded she be paid more for, quote, standing in a dress for 18 hours. Zegler created so much controversy that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for her co-star Gal Gadot because of the countless death threats she was receiving. This movie is an absolute dumpster fire, and Rachel's response to the film bombing proved that everyone's suspicions about her were correct.
I'm a narcissist.
And yet none of that has anything to do with why people were suspicious about Rachel Zegler in the first place. In 2018, Rachel's friend sent her a tweet about an open
goddamn salad, but shit fucked up.
Call for Steven Spielberg's film adaptation of West Side Story. So 16-year-old Zegler recorded and submitted an audition tape.
Bernardo and Anita argue all morning about a fight that's gonna happen tonight?
Now, she was definitely a promising young talent. She spent her childhood acting in countless plays and developed an impressive singing voice. Rachel was just one of 30,000 who auditioned for the role of Maria. Without any professional acting experience, an agent, or connections in Hollywood, she was selected for the lead role. Her performance earned critical acclaim, and she went on to win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. The industry plant accusations were formed because some people simply do not believe that a no-name actor could get this lucky. She was basically hand-selected by Steven Spielberg. Then again, with the entertainment industry being flooded with nepo babies and people born into immense wealth, Rachel being essentially a random girl from New Jersey securing an A-list role actually might might be a step in the right direction for Hollywood. However, they may have chose the wrong girl, because her inability to keep her politically charged opinions to herself started to cause problems for
Bro,
Disney.
listen to me. You think I could get a role? One thing you don't ever do. There's two things forbidden that you don't ever do, no matter how you feel about anything. You don't talk politics and you don't talk religion. Everybody knows that. That's one thing motherfucker couldn't pay me to talk about. Oh, how do you feel about Christianity or Muslim? Hey, no comment. How do you feel about Donald Trump? No comment. How do you feel about Kamala? Who are you voting for? I don't talk politics and I don't talk religion. Yeah, I'm not finna get me caught up in that game. Because you pick either side, 50% of the population is going to hate you. Whether you like Kamala, the Trump voters is going to hate you. You like Trump, all them Democrats is going to hate you. You talk fucking religion, there's I think it's 4,100 different religions out here. You're going to offend somebody. So it's stay away from it.
Disney
and it's easy to stay away from it. Just don't talk about it. Because it's not like people's asking you questions about it. Just shut the fuck up.
As
When
if
you
West
just
Side Story
volunteering this
wasn't already
information,
a massive introduction to Hollywood, her next role was even bigger, one that could set her up for a lifetime of success, and that was being cast as Snow White in Disney's live-action remake of the classic. Rachel chose to make this monumental announcement on Twitter where she wrote, "Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role." Rachel deleted this tweet.
You see, what the fuck? Are you insane? Are you insane? Why would you say that?
This tweet shortly after sending it out to the world. However, the reason she brought up her skin color in the first place was to address the criticism she was receiving online. In the original
Just don't
fairy
even
tale
respond to these people. Let them say whatever they want. Just don't respond.
The 1937 animated film, Snow White is depicted as having skin as white as snow. It is quite literally the inception of the princess's identity, but Rachel Zegler is of Colombian descent and has more of an olive skin tone. Now there definitely were...
It's you know what's funny? If she didn't do all this stuff and make it this and Snow White, he was a stalker and he was a creep and he was and all that other stuff. She didn't do all that. I don't think people would have cared. Because I mean, if you didn't know she was Colombian, you would think she was just a white girl. I would think I didn't know that. When I first seen her, I was just like, oh, she's a white girl. I thought she was a regular white girl. I didn't know she's Colombian and she's this and she's half this and that. I don't give a fuck about all that. People who look into all that is weird to me. Those people, or something's wrong with those people. Who gives a fuck? She looks white. What? She has to be 100% Caucasian from the mountain of Caucasus. It's bro, it's not that deep. Who gives a fuck? She's not black. You know what I'm saying? At least, you know what I'm saying? She's not a black girl. She's as white passing as someone could possibly be without actually being white. You know what I'm saying? That's number one. It's her saying the stuff about the movie, and one, I think it's gonna fail anyway. Because one, I heard the movie is trash, regardless of all the other stuff. Because just the script, the stuff they talking about, the angle they came with, I think it was gonna fail regardless. But all that stuff she said in the lead up to the movie definitely did not help, and I definitely think that took a few $100 million off the box office. But you know what's funny? I think it's just the times that we in. Because I remember a movie, an old classic from 2004, Daredevil. Kingpin, Michael Clark Duncan. Kingpin is portrayed as a white man, a big white dude in the comic books, in the anime, whatever, he portrayed as a white man. And Michael Clark Duncan is a black dude. Rest in peace, R.I.P. to Michael Clark Duncan. He played a good Kingpin, and I didn't hear, I mean, maybe it was just a different time. I was young too. That was 21 years ago. I'm only 33, so I was what? I was 12. I was literally 12 when that movie came out. You know what I'm saying? So Maybe the internet wasn't what it is now, so maybe people did have a problem with it, but I didn't hear nothing negative. Even till this day, never heard nothing negative about him portraying the Kingpin in that movie. And he's not white. You know what I'm saying? I think back in those days, the early 2000s, like, you could get away with that type of stuff because we wasn't in the climate that we're in now with all this politics and race swapping, and people are extra. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna just say people are very observant of these things now, and they look. And there's people who, like, their whole purpose is to look for these things because we're so used to all this woke bullshit. They keep race swapping all the movies. They putting all these women in these action movies for some reason. For the life of me, I just won't get it. It's like you just want your movie to fail. It could work, just like, but you have to do it right. Like Shorty who did all the Resident Evil movies. Those are action movies. Nobody have a problem with her. Nobody complained. Ripley from Alien. Nobody complained. You just have to do it right. Now the women nowadays, it's like they not doing them right. They making them. They just not doing it right. That's a whole nother topic for me to get into deep, for me to really go into all that. They're just not doing it right. So people, when they see certain roles and certain people in certain roles, they're a lot more like, hold on, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? Aware. They just kind of looking in now like, oh, this probably going to be some bullshit. 99% of the time they're right. It's going to be some bullshit.
Were some extreme takes, suggesting that Disney is evil and only casting POC characters to cause outrage. There were also some blatantly racist takes, but most people were just genuinely confused why Snow White wasn't going to be white. And this does seem to be a recurring theme for Disney these days. The original 1989 animation of The Little Mermaid depicted Ariel as a white woman, whereas the 2023 live-action remake cast Halle Bailey as Ariel, who is African American. And yes, this film was also accused of pandering, trying to change something that was a non-issue in the first.
If you hate constantly being swarmed by ads, you need to download Pi. It's a free Chrome extension that blocks ads on all
the first place. However, defenders pointed out that mermaids don't have a race because they are not real. Normally, these controversies lead to failure, but the film grossed over $560 million worldwide and made a solid profit. But Zegler insisted that the Snow White remake was based on an alternative version of the story, one that doesn't have to do with her skin color. She said, it fell back to another version of Snow White that was told in history.
The Halle Bailey Little Mermaid, it would have did better financially if it was a white one. Because that's what people just groomed to expect. That's what people expect. But it didn't do too bad because Halle Bailey is actually likable. She didn't come out shitting on the movie, talking bad about it, and talking about she's going to be a fucking girl boss. And they're going to do this and they're going to do that. No. So people actually like her. She didn't trash the movie. She wasn't a problem. She wasn't saying all this dumb stuff in the lead up way before the movie came out, so people already like, fuck this bitch, I'm not going to see it.
History, where she survived a snowstorm that occurred when she was a baby, and so the king and queen decided to name her Snow White to remind her of her resilience. One of the core points in our film for any young woman or young person is remembering how strong you actually are. And while this may seem like a small nuance that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, it was an insight into the major changes that were coming next, because the more Zegler talked about the film, the more it seemed like it was going to be a disaster, particularly in this Variety interview where she talked about how she and the writers are giving Snow White a modern twist.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer.
It's like, what would possess it? When she was doing it, I was like, they gotta be putting her up to this. Because what would possess you? One, you're not some big star. You had one Broadway type thing going on. All right, you won a little award, whatever. People liked you and that, whatever. But bro, you don't do stuff like this unless you're like fucking Tom Cruise or some shit like that. Or Leonardo DiCaprio, where you so established that even if this movie flopped, who gives a fuck? You're still rich. You still been acting for 30 years. You're still a great actor, world famous. Everybody knows you. Shorty, you're nobody. Why would you do this to yourself? You think I would do this? I'm shutting the fuck up. I love Snow White. It's my favorite movie. Bro, they could give me fucking Pinocchio. I'm finna act like this is one of the greatest movies ever made. Because I know the world that we're living in, the climate that we're in. You want to make people like you as much as possible. You don't want to turn anybody off. You want to get as much of the audience to come out to see you. You don't want to make any particular group feel any type of way, especially on your come up. This is one thing if you're already established and you've been in the game for 30 years. Who gives a fuck at that point? Fuck you. You don't like me, eat a dick. You know what I'm saying? Say whatever you want. But this could be the end of her career. This movie flopping right here. And who's really going to want to work with her after that? They see what she did in the lead up to this thing. I'm like, I don't want that bitch on my movie. She's going to fuck it up.
Longer
I wouldn't want her in my movie.
And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Snow White dreams of being a leader?
Like,
why not
what?
write a totally new story instead of remaking
and
the
don't
old
call
ones?
it Snow White.
It has nothing to do with Snow White. Zegler, there is nothing wrong with dreaming about true love. But people were not overreacting in the comments. Zegler supported stripping this classic story of its roots.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her.
This woman, I honestly thought they was putting her up to this. But as time went on, I was like, they probably was like, what the fuck is she doing? But, you know the funny part, these interviews, they was out. But nobody really paid it no mind. It was like, whatever. It just kind of went under the bridge. Until almost like a year later, it started going viral again. And people was like, what the fuck? And that's when I seen it. And that's when a lot of like, some of the channels I followed that I watched, like Critical Drinker, my boy Nerd Roddick, because a few of them, like all those dudes in that clan, I fuck with them when it comes to the movie stuff. When they started, the Yellow Flash, other dude, when I seen them talking about it, I was like, the fuck? But these videos was like a year prior. But for some reason, it just didn't pick up any traction. It just kind of went under the bridge. And then it came back up again and it went viral and everybody was talking about it. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, why would she say that? Do you want this movie to fail? And so said,
on
so
her
done.
love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Rachel's tone might come off silly to some, but it is evidently so sarcastic. Referring to Prince Charming as a stalker is inaccurate and disrespectful. We are not talking about just any Disney film, we are talking about the first ever full-length animated feature film in history. This is quite literally Walt Disney's baby. Now people are already a little apprehensive towards the countless remakes of old Disney classics, but Rachel's lack of class and grace pushed anyone who was even a little open-minded away. Despite that, she continued to express her disdain for the original film.
I was scared of the original cartoon. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
What's interesting about Rachel claiming to be scared of the original film is that she also said,
Never revisit.
Random. But I'm a big fan. Gal Gadot is so fine, dog. I always thought she was so fine. But Rachel Zegler got some really nice legs. Like, I'm big on legs. I don't know, it's weird, right? It's weird. I don't know, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. But she has some really nice, smooth, unblemished. Like, I love women with nice skin. Like, they don't got a bunch of marks on their skin. And that's kind of like why, a big reason too why I like darker skinned women, like chocolate women. Because it's harder to see blemishes. Like, usually lightest toned women, they get a little mark, a scratch, everything shows. They get a lot of blemishes on their skin. Like, look how smooth her, buttery her skin is. Not a mark on her skin, dog. Gal Gadot, woo. Wonder Woman, boy. Let me stop. Let me stop.
cartoon. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
What's interesting about Rachel claiming to be scared of the original film is that she also said the exact opposite during her press tour, showing pictures of her as a child in her Snow White dress and how she always dreamed as a little girl of being this princess. This constant flip-flopping along with her sarcastic tone just soured people's perception of her. But not only did she seem unappreciative of a Disney classic, she also made some interesting comments about her next role as Anthea in Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes?
I needed a job. I'm being so serious.
While yes, even actors have bills to pay and need a job to do that, some interpreted the remark as snarky and annoying. Now, to be fair, later in the interview, Rachel does go on to express her gratitude for receiving this role, considering it was only her second Hollywood film ever.
That's what I
but
was
her
saying. I didn't know
unapologetic
who she
attitude
was.
on the red carpet continued to stir the pot, and she just kept making it worse, specifically during the writer's strike of 2023. The Writers Guild of America represents thousands of writers in film, TV, radio, and online media.
Like, bro,
they are the backbone
unless
of
I'm like
Hollywood's
50
content. Despite their
classic
importance, Hollywood executives
blockbuster
restructured
movies
the
that
industry
I'm not
to drastically
talking- she's
reduce
talking
residual
like-
payments, leaving most
She been in the game for years, and she's a established name already. That's how she's talking, as if like she can't be fucked with. Like, ain't nobody fuck with me. I'm that bitch. Like, no, you are that bitch in your second movie, and that movie flopped too. And even the Shazam movie flopped. I mean, that had nothing to do with it. She wasn't the stars. I mean, there was no talks about her in the lead up to the movie, so she had nothing to do with that. But that movie flopped too, so it's not like you in movies that's selling for real.
most writers with little to no income after their work is uploaded to apps like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, etc. So the guild went on a strike to renegotiate and push for higher pay. Rachel Zegler also used her voice to support the strike.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She's like everything people hate about this generation distilled into a single person. At this point, I'm sure you are noticing a pattern. While we hope that deep down Rachel's intentions are pure, and we hope that she truly is just trying to have an overall positive impact on the world, she has a terrible way of expressing her opinions, as her tone often comes off as disrespectful. Having 2 movies under her belt and already aggressively demanding higher pay came off extremely entitled, especially considering the strike was mostly for writers, because main characters, like Zegler, are often compensated extremely generously. By this point, her reputation was at an all-time low, and there were even rumors circulating that Disney was going to axe this film, as countless people expressed that Rachel Zegler is the sole reason that they would not go to watch the movie. But then somehow, Disney managed to make things even worse. They announced that they would be changing Snow White's 7 dwarves to the more politically correct Snow White's diverse group of magical creatures of all sizes and genders. Photos of the cast were leaked onto the internet, which sparked outrage. These look like medieval times reenactors at the local fair. Disney quickly responded and said that these were not pictures of the actual set, but nobody believed them. The only reason Disney planned on changing the dwarves in the first place was because of a comment made by Hollywood star Peter Dinklage, who felt that the new rendition of the movie was not progressive enough.
I was a little taken back by they're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Snow White, yeah.
7 dwarves.
Sure.
So you take a step back and look at what you're doing there.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
That makes no sense to me.
Well,
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Even though Peter Dinklage has built an illustrious Hollywood legacy with countless roles.
That alone made me not like him. And I was a fan of this little short fucker. There's a couple movies he acted in. He's a good actor. And there's not many, and that's the thing too, why it's like, he's a piece of shit for that, dog. That alone made me say, yo, fuck this dude. He's a piece of shit. In terms of dwarfs and little people movie, it's not many of them that stars, bro. In terms of like little short dwarfs that's in like blockbusters and big time movies, he's the only one. Bro, I'm 33 years old, bro. I've been watching movies since the beginning of time. Movies before I was even born. Like, classics. I've seen them probably all. I've probably seen them all. This dude, in terms of short dwarfs that's like big stars in blockbuster Hollywood movies, seeing this, seeing that, he's probably the only one I've ever seen in my life that's a big as star as he is in terms of the movies he's been in, the caliber of movies he's been in, the roles he's gotten. He's the only one. And it's to the point where you don't even see him as like a dwarf anymore. You just see him as a regular dude, as an actor. And for you to say that and cost 7 dwarfs jobs because you want to be the only fucking dwarf getting acting roles out here, you a piece of shit, dog, for that. Piece of shit. I don't care what nobody say.
Roles as a little person, he seemed pretty upset with Disney. They promptly responded that they would avoid reinforcing stereotypes and would be consulting with members of the dwarfism community to make the 7 characters more inclusive. Most people just looked at this as Disney once again pandering to another social issue, but what often happens when trying to please everyone for the sake of being politically correct, you end up pleasing no one.
What they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people could have as little people.
Thank you, Wee Man. From fucking Jackass. My guy. Common sense. Just 7 dwarves that could have had jobs. That probably could have took that and branched that off into actual careers and actually done some shit with it. And you fucking just got that shit taken away from them because you a piece of shit talking about, oh, they like regressing and whatever. I don't even know what the fuck he was trying to say. Like, what are you talking about? This is the movie. It's a like, you do realize that was in the original movie, right? You fucking piece of shit. What are you talking like? As if like, oh, it's such a step back and those fuckers aren't being woken up for my little Fifi. It's like, bro, what are you talking about?
Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. It's 4 dwarfs.
Disney was panicking for a solution to make both sides happy, and nobody could have predicted how bad their solution to this problem would be.
It cost you more to make fucking horrible
real
CGI
actors, Disney decided to eliminate them and use CGI dwarves instead, which will provide enough nightmare fuel to last you the rest of 2025.
It cost you so much more money to CGI these dwarfs instead of actually getting short people. Short dwarfs people exist in real life. You don't have to get CGI, you dumb fucks. And having to render these creatures throughout the whole movie with CGI. You know how much millions of dollars that probably cost them that they could have saved? These people are so dumb.
The dwarves look like scary monsters, not cute, charming friends. The overuse of CGI in this film allowed them to take shortcuts. Instead of creating detailed artistic sets and costumes, they relied on animation, which made the film feel cheap, hollow, and soulless. Like, wasn't this supposed to be a live-action remake? Where's the live action? Why is there so much CGI? Why does it look like a really bad cartoon? Additionally, the significance of the dwarves to the story was drastically reduced. Grumpy and Dopey got a decent amount of screen time, while the other 5 dwarves were barely shown enough for the viewers to be able to distinguish them from one another. Ironically, all of these decisions were made to avoid backlash from the dwarfism community, and now the little people who were removed from the film are now planning a class action lawsuit against Disney for replacing them with cartoons. This is so ridiculous.
I didn't even
Actress
know about
Ally
that.
Chapman, who is 3 foot 8 inches tall, said, 7 talented little people actors could have played these roles in the live action remake, and yet they chose to use cartoons. It's an insult and discriminatory. You ever see one of those tragic situations where it's extremely foggy and there's a traffic jam on the highway and you have cars speeding into the fog just crashing into each other? That is this film. And surely it couldn't get any worse, right? Wrong, because now there was a major dispute between the 2 stars of the film, Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler. Fans noticed sometime between 2023 and 2024 that Gal and Rachel may have developed some tension. As you can see in this interview, Gal is being professional, looking and smiling while Zegler is speaking. But whenever Gal is speaking, Zegler refuses to look at her, often looking down at her feet or off to the side. Their body language screams that there is tension between them, and these assumptions would be
Gal
proven
Gadot is very
true.
professional though, because she's not like, because she's been in the game for a while, so she know how to play the game. This girl don't know anything. She's a young, dumb little girl, thinking that she's the star. Well, she is, but shorty, this is your second movie role. The first one, you wasn't a star. This here, and you fucking it up, and people already hate you, and your movie flopped. God knows where her career is gonna go. This is the same thing from the girl with Star Wars, whatever her name is, the Ripley girl. She's fucked too. Cause ain't nobody checking for none of her movies. She already fucked up Star Wars. Ain't nobody trying to see you ruin nothing else. And she wasn't even as unbearable as this girl.
When Disney released the official trailer for Snow White, Rachel thanked the fans for their support, receiving over 120 million views in 24 hours. She used that big moment to make a political statement, and always remember, Free Palestine. While some saw this as an honorable act of solidarity, others interpreted it as a jab at her co-star. Gal Gadot is Israeli, and even served in their military. Gal has been outwardly supportive of her country, specifically posting support for the IDF and civilian hostages taken during the October 7th Hamas attack. Almost immediately, Gal began getting a concerning amount of death threats. Things got so bad that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for Gadot. One of the Disney producers, Mark Platt, flew from Los Angeles to New York to have a personal
with this
crisis
Palestine,
talk.
Israel shit. You live in America. You don't fucking know anything about Israel or Palestine. Are you from Israel? Are you Palestinians or whatever the fuck? You're not. So what the fuck? Bro, that shit was always popping up on my algorithm. I remember when it was like hot. I didn't even know what was going on because I don't keep up with that. I don't keep up with foreign affairs like that. I'm an American, dog. I don't care about what's happening to Ukraine or Russia. I don't give a fuck. And the people who sit around and pretend like they do give a fuck is pieces of shit and they lies. And the only reason why they pretending like they care and we're with Ukraine is because the media tell you to support these people. You don't give a fuck about the Ukraine. Nothing that's happening in Ukraine is going to affect you in your day-to-day life. You don't care. There's wars happening all across the world, right now. There's wars that have been going on in Sudan and them since the beginning for God knows how many years. Do you care about that? Do you know which side you support and which side you don't support? You don't fucking know because you don't care. The only reason why you care about this Ukraine and Russia and this Palestine and Israel bullshit is because the media telling you you should care about this shit. Oh, we support this side, so you should support that side. Free Palestine. I don't fucking know what's going on over there. Why would I be? Like, sure, you live in America. You're an American-born citizen. You're not from Palestine. What are you talking about, Free Palestine? Gal Gadot, I can understand why she's supporting Israel. She's from there. She, like he said, she served in their military. She is from Israel. You are an American-born citizen from Cuba. What the fuck are you talking about, Free Palestine? I hate people like that. That just jump on a bandwagon just because the media say, "Oh, this is the new thing. This is the new hot thing." Now everybody's jumping on it. It's like you don't care. You don't know anything about that. Stop this bullshit. Stop the pandering. Please stop. I hate people that do that.
Talk with Zegler. Platt had to remind her how much was at stake with the movie and her career before asking her to post heedfully. The son of the Disney producer was criticized online for his father trying to reprimand Zegler, to which he responded, "Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires, at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. Now, Rachel Zegler cannot necessarily be held responsible for the actions of other people. After all, her and her co-star
I'm like, it's close, man. It's close. I mean, Gal Gadot is a little older now. She's probably like 37, 38, but Rachel Zegler's attractive to me, dog. Like, people try to act like, oh, right, she's unbearable. She's not very smart. She's annoying. She says dumb stuff all the time. But if we talking about just features, it's pretty close. Gal Gadot 10 years ago, all right, I would definitely give it to her. Even now, she's still, I'm not saying she's about 37 years old right now, 38. You know what I'm saying? And maybe there's definitely different lighting too. Gal Gadot is in a darker light. She's in a more, like the flash is right in her face. But Rachel Zegler is attractive. I don't give a fuck what nobody saying. Anybody that say otherwise is lying. To act like, oh, she's ugly, or it's like, that's insane to me. Insane.
Are doing the exact same thing. They are just expressing support for opposite sides. But all of this could have been avoided if they just left politics out of a children's movie. But Zegler was insistent on making her political opinion heard at any opportunity she could.
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable.
If you don't stop
Our
following.
rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on. Go vote blue. And if...
Thank God. That's the one thing I could say. Well, I'm glad Mr. J. Trump won that goddamn election. This country would have been doomed. It would have been doomed. It would have been the same shit we was going through with Sleepy Joe for the past 4 years, but 10 times worse. I honestly believe this country would have combusted into flames if she had won. Like, literally, it would have just combusted into flames. Randomly.
if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
And what better time than immediately after the election of President Donald Trump? She posted on her Instagram story, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in, leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in." She doesn't have a daughter, by the way. "Leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful."
Even that, yo, I hate to really go into this. Even that mindset of forcing her to have a baby she doesn't want. So why she didn't keep her legs closed? This shit kills me with these women. That was like literally they selling point for the Democratic Party in this election. Abortion. Okay. Who's that really appealing to? Besides women who want to, like, you know what I'm saying? They kids. And as a man, I don't care about that. Because I would never, my kids and my girl or any woman I deal with would never do that. I don't even deal with them type of women that's into that type of stuff. Like, just murking their kids because, oh my God, I made a bad decision and me go murk my baby. Like, I don't. So even that mindset of women like really angling and pushing for that and acting like this is a tragedy, and that was never a selling point or something that Donald Trump was gonna take away. Your right to have an abortion. He was just sending it back to the states. So each states have their own law. If this state say it's not good, it's not good. If this state say you want to murk your baby and have 1 million abortions and have them up till the 9-month mark, you could do whatever the fuck you want to do. But he was just, it's just not was going to be a federal law that this what we was going to do or what we wasn't going to do. It was going to go back to the states. But these women kept, and they kept, and this how they do too. They say words like, oh, medical care. Like, it's not medical care. You aborting a perfectly healthy baby that would have grown into a perfectly healthy human being. But for whatever reason, you decided after you decided to have sex with some random dude unprotected and got pregnant that you was going to murk the baby afterwards. It's like, come on. And act like, oh, they being denied medical care. Like, stop with this bullshit. And people who stupid and naive who don't know, once they hear that he's trying to take away our rights to medical care or whatever stupid shit they want to, is like, that's not what he's doing.
Fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke fear this morning, and I am here with you. To cry, to yell, to hug,
All
to
that
wax
means is
poetic on how the left
close
continues
your
to fail
legs.
us in forging a new path forward.
And
This
stop
law
having
should
sex
not
with
have
dudes
been,
you don't
and it
wanna
certainly
be
should not have been by so many
without a
votes.
condom.
May
It's
Trump
not rocket
supporters
science.
and Trump
Nobody's forcing
voters
y'all to
and
do
Trump
these things.
himself never know peace. This sent the media into an all-out frenzy, particularly conservative media, who were shocked that Disney was allowing their star to publicly condemn half the country.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for
Yeah, and
far
fired Gina
less
Carano.
than this nonsense.
Rachel finally crossed a line. Disney was officially fed up with her and decided to take action. First, I'm assuming, they made her apologize because she redacted her comments she made about the election. From there, Zegler reportedly began working with a social media guru paid for by Disney to vet any posts before the film's March 21st debut. They essentially had someone monitoring her social media so she wasn't able to sabotage the film any further, but the damage had already been done. The film officially released in theaters worldwide on March 21st, 2025. There was a slight chance that all this negative publicity would actually draw more attention to the film, increase ticket sales, and lead to a successful debut. Unfortunately for Disney, the opposite happened. Fans knew this movie was going to suck way before it ever released, and no matter how many professional critics on Rotten Tomatoes are writing positive reviews, the fans have made their statement with a lack of support. And as a result, Snow White has suffered a disastrous opening weekend at the global box office, earning only $87.3 million worldwide, which sounds like a lot until you realize that it had a staggering $250 million production budget, which some reports suggest is actually closer to $300 million after reshoots and marketing costs. That means they had a whopping 70% loss, making it one of Disney's biggest box office bombs in recent history.
And 9 times out of 10, those numbers that they show is not true. If they spent $250 million to make a movie, 9 times out of 10 it's probably a little bit more because they had to do a bunch of reshoots because the movie was shit. And when they brought in the for test screenings, the people to watch it for test screenings, a lot of times the movie sucks. Especially nowadays, they do it a lot. They reshoot the movie because the movies usually suck because they can't make good movies anymore because the people don't got no talent. That's number one. Number two, whatever the budget is to make the movie, just add double that for the marketing, because the marketing is usually the same amount. Say the movie's $100 million, they usually spend about $100 million to market because they got to market it across the world, posters, this, that, commercials. It's usually double whatever the production budget is, sometimes even more. So if they said spend, so let's just say on the go low end, they spent $250 million, $250 million to make the movie. That means they spent another $250 million to promote the movie. That's $500 million. So to break even, they have to make almost $1 billion minimum to break even. Because now the theaters, when the movie's in theaters, the theaters take a cut of that. It's not that they don't, whatever tickets or whatever the movie makes in movie theaters, they don't get all the money for that. No, the theaters got to get a cut, not then they get 50%. So the movie literally has to make $1 billion for them to even make a profit, a little bit of a profit too. Not even a big profit, a little bit of a profit. Especially if you spend $500 million between the budget and the marketing. You got to make $1 billion just to make a smidgen of a profit.
This performance is nearly exactly the same as The Little Mermaid. It had the same budget and had a very similar opening weekend. However, The Little Mermaid was actually a pretty good remake with positive reviews. Fans later decided to give the movie a shot, which resulted in a $569 million worldwide box office earnings. But due to the overwhelming agreement from people who actually watched the movie that it sucks, and then people straight up boycotting, I don't think Snow White's gonna get a second wind. This is a bomb. And Rachel Zegler's response to the box office failure was nothing short of delusional.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
People who already thought Zegler was a narcissist have officially confirmed their feelings after seeing this statement. They suspected she was trying to make this film about her. They suspected that she did not care for the legacy of Disney and that all she wanted was the spotlight for herself. And honestly, this response makes it seem like those assumptions are now justified. But it's a confusing response because the film was a massive flop. Like, essentially she's saying, haha, my movies are so great, you just have to line up and you have to watch them. But that's not the case. People are actually not waiting in line for this
Like,
film specifically because of her. And as easy as it is to continuously blame her for the failure of this film, it's only fair to admit that Rachel Zegler's performance was actually decent. She is a great singer, and she definitely performed well considering most of what makes the film actually bad was outside of her control. Like most Disney live-action remakes, Snow White just felt a bit bland and lacked the magic of the original. The CGI looked cheap, the colors are dull and boring, the evil queen didn't feel very evil at all. These remakes often struggle to capture the same charm, making them feel like a corporate cash grab. But since Disney will lose money on this film, perhaps they won't make this same mistake going forward. But the biggest learning lesson for Disney here is that the internet outrage is not fake. When people say, hey, your main character is insufferable and I will not spend my money to see this movie, they're not lying. When people say they genuinely want politics to remain out of a children's movie, they are not lying. And when people say it's better to just invent new stories instead of alter the classics, they are not lying. The people won, but the truth is, this film should have never been made. Walt Disney himself was extremely protective of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This was essentially his baby. Walt reportedly rejected multiple ideas for sequels, including a proposed short called Snow White Returns, and was adamant that the original story should not be altered or expanded, as he believed Snow White was a standalone masterpiece that should remain untouched. And it's extremely evident that Disney should have honored their creator's one wish.
Of course they're not going to do that because they're money hungry pieces of shit and they will sell their mother for $1. But I'm glad they didn't make no money. All heroes don't wear capes. That's the end of the video. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. I'll be back to y'all with another one.